Now don't you go and change not a half for me. No. Baby, baby, baby.
I'm here, I'm singing, right?
You really care for
Good
me.
evening and welcome to Here's the Light
Stay
with Zemrah
precious Valentine.
right here at IntellectualRadio.com. And as always, you know, we're so excited about being back. Like I said last week, we have really missed our segment, and we got great feedback. A lot of people said they really enjoyed our show last week. Well, we were really just, you know, kind of giving you more or less of an update of what we've been doing, what we're going to do. And, you know, like I stated, we got some good shows coming for you, some very informative ones. I was just sharing one in particular that is going to be very good because, you know, we always deal with health, dealing with things naturally to get it done. And I was just sharing that we have a brother that is absolutely phenomenal that's going to bring some great information to our audience that I think everybody will be very pleased with. So today, which will be going forward, the second Tuesday of every month. And then sometimes if I can just steal her away, she's you know, quite busy, but I'm sure that we should be able to pull in our relationship enthusiast, as she calls herself, and that is Miss Pamela Wilks. So we have her, yes, we have her joining us this evening, and we're going to talk about, well, I should say, well, we're going to talk about men and the relationship of how they feel about different things. But I'm going to really let Pam expound on that. So here we have Miss Pamela Wilks in living color.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Pam said, I'm sorry, Pam. And she said, now, we don't have any men on this segment, but we do have our producer who's very wise and who has his own opinion about men and women. And then, of course, my better half has his opinion about men and women. You see him shaking his head, which he definitely does. Sometimes he can be neutral. Sometimes he can be difficult. But also, we will get him. The most important thing is, like I always say, is in any conversation, we got to be truthful, and especially in relationships of all kind. So with nothing else to say until I have something to say, Miss Pamela Wilks.
When is that not?
You say that?
Well, everybody knows I'm a talker because I let people know that I am a talker.
Yes.
I have a lot to say. I'm not always right.
Right.
A lot of times I am, but you know, that's the way it goes. At any rate, on this every second Tuesday of the month, I plan to be here bringing conversation that is conversations that is thought-provoking, conversation that is fun, interesting, and as Zemrah said, truthful. And also resolve. I'm about resolving the issues. You know, we could talk all day about why this happens or why that happens or who did what. But one of the things that I think we need to get to, and this is across the board, is to resolving the situation as best you can. All situations aren't resolvable. We understand that. But we want to do the best we can so that we can be better, do better. And that's all that we want, to live happy, healthy, and most prosperous lives. I thought that this would be a good opportunity to talk about men. I love men. I love men. I love my men, which I'm just going to be honest. I love my Black men, but I love all men. Men are a very rare breed on this planet, and the Creator created them that way. But we have to love them. And because I come from a very loving environment, I've said it before. If for those of you that do not know, I came from a very loving environment. My father, Rabbi James Hodges, my four brothers. Well, now I only have three. Um, my male uncles on my mom and dad's side, my cousins. I've just been a person, a woman who have experienced love throughout my life. So I I I love men. And then even the men in my life that I've dated, I didn't have really a bad relationship with them. I realized later on that a lot of it was me. And so I cannot say that it was all them. You know,
You
I
could have
can
blown up the internet. You just claim you love men,
I do.
and the women just went what?
Yeah, I do. But I'm
And then you accept the blame on yourself too
that some of the relationships,
for a woman. Go ahead,
some of the
man.
relationships that I was in, now that I look in hindsight, I probably could have did some things different. So because I'm a person who does a lot of self-analyzing. So but we could talk about that another time as well. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show today about men, because my nephew, by association, my niece father, my great niece father, Mitchell Stewart, has written a book, and it is an extremely wonderful book, and he's going to be on next in July. So the second Tuesday in July, and if you follow me on Facebook and YouTube, you'll hear more about it. But I think that one of the things that we want to do in relationships, I am a self-acclaimed relationship enthusiast. I do not call myself a expert because of the definition other people put on the word expert. I don't claim to know everything. I am 70 plus years old, and I do know what I know. I have experienced a lot. I have paid attention to a lot. I am not in a relationship, haven't been in a relationship in a while, but I have seen, I have witnessed, and then I have been in relationships. So I talk about what I know. I don't talk about what I don't know.
And you've
Good.
observed.
I am very observant.
Yes.
And sometimes I have to not be as vocal because my opinion, sometimes the way I see things, is from the lens of how I was raised. And a lot of people don't have that as their experience. And I understand that sometimes. But I want to pose a question that we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
more than once or twice.
3 or
And
4.
yes, and it. What you gonna say, Ed?
No.
No,
No,
finish.
he eased up to his mic. You all can on me. You all can't see Zemrah and Ed, but Ed eased up to his mic like he was getting ready to say something. And
That was just a thought.
yes, well, thoughts are things. And so I just have one thing that I like to say. One of the things that I think we have to watch when we're um, conversating, and that's having conversations. Conversations, in my opinion, is not just talking. It has more to do with understanding the other person. Now, you can have a conversation with yourself. Some people have been told, "Oh, if you answering yourself." Yeah. What better person to talk to than you? So you should talk to yourself. And if you are self-aware, you will have conversations that you can ask and answer questions. That too is another subject. But one of the things that I like to do is, I don't know about what a man is thinking. I know what I think he's thinking. And I think that's one of the mistakes that we as women make. We say we know what they're thinking. If they ask you something and he tells them, then you say, no, that's not what you meant. And then I think a lot of times men draw up because they don't want to get into the whole thing. So I'll ask Ed. Well, number one, I almost can't ask Ed a lot too because he's married, and sometimes
What does that have to do with it?
because I was going to say sometimes these these questions have to do with single people.
Well, what is
too.
your question?
I was asking him, have you found that when you're having a conversation, and it's not just with your mate, it's conversation with women in general, because we have a tendency to know what we know. And we think that, see, that's what I'm going to say. We think we know more than you know.
And sometimes we do.
See,
it just depends.
Well, my question is, what do you as a man think about that?
Well, this is deep because the way a man thinks is kind of different from what a woman thinks. We've had different experiences in life, which is why most men don't like confrontation and they don't like to bicker about little things. And when a woman says something that and tells you what she knows, men will not argue. They go like, "Okay, I'm out," because they don't want to engage in that conversation because they know that that's a losing proposition.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to win that argument, or you're not going to win the conversation because you're not used to doing it. And women are always being controversial or attacking.
Confrontational.
That's a new word.
Women like to confront the issue.
But why is it that you said that you back off because you don't want to deal with it, but you've been dealing with it from what you say all along?
It's a sound thing. It's a vibration thing.
Okay, we go back to the.
Men works on a certain frequency, and women work on another one.
That's true.
It's kind of offsetting, and they don't like to deal with it. Just the sound of your voice and your tone belies whatever they want to hear. And so they shut you off because they know that you're not going to turn them on or talk on their level. So therefore, whatever you got to say, he's not interested. But he'll shake his head and go like, "Okay, I'll do that." He has no thought of even listening to what you're saying. That's why men don't listen. He heard you. He just wasn't listening.
And that is a major difference. Do you agree with that, Earl? That's what our producer said.
And see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I say that women need to listen to men and men need to listen to women. And there's a word called compromise. Sometimes you have to compromise. Sometimes.
But that means giving up something.
Well, it's also a thing called give and take. I was a reservation sales agent at Southwest Airlines some years ago, and for some reason or other, I would take reservations, and I don't know how it happened, but I was a person where people called in for a reservation, and you know how quick this was back in the day in the early 90s. You know how quickly it takes to do a reservation, just give you a reservation. But I would always, well, not always, but often get people and we'd get into a conversation and people will ask me things and we'll start talking. And this older gentleman got on, he was making a reservation for he and his wife. And he mentioned that they were going on a trip and they had been married for something like 50, 60 years. And I was like, wow, that is really something. I said, how did you do that? I said, I didn't stay married 8 months. I said, how did you do
was that?
Mine and his. I didn't realize it though until later, but we can talk about that at another time. But so the guy, he says, I said, wow, how did you do that? And he said, honey, he said he called her honey, and they'd been married that long. So I said, ooh, I like that, because I like endearing. So anyway, he said, this young lady wants to know, how do we stay married for so many years? You know what I heard her say? She says, you have to give and take.
That's why I love Here's the Life so much.
And give and take means sometimes you have to give.
That's right.
And sometimes you have to take. And that's interchangeable. Sometimes you have to give in the relationship, and then the wife or the girlfriend or whatever takes, and then vice versa. But you have to remember that.
Which one of in the couple has a tendency to give more than the other?
Well, that depends on who loves the hardest. My grandfather, my mom's father, said that in the relationship, there's one person who loves the most. You don't have to say who, and they don't have to tell you who. But in a relationship, there's no even keel, just like there's no 50-50. Let's be honest. Right. So there's one person within the relationship that loved the most. A woman would be wise. Listen to what I'm saying, ladies. A woman would be wise if you would end up with a guy who loves you the most. Understand that. That doesn't mean that you take advantage of him.
That means he's going to need it.
That means what?
He's going to need the love. He's going to need to love you more than you
Absolutely.
love him in order for him to get through.
Now, are you all hearing what he's saying? That is so important, Ed. Say that again, because I didn't see it that way. The man.
Not just physically. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to love this person more than you love yourself, because you're going to have to give up yourself. Wow. And a lot of things you're going to have to just swallow. And not say anything, because you know her and you know what she said and what she meant. Mm-hmm. And what she meant has nothing to do with what she just said.
Oof.
Well, that's not.
If women can get that, if I'm telling you, women, listen to what a man. Don't listen to what these other women are saying. You better listen to what a man is saying. Even you may not.
And you better
agree
really
with
have
it,
listened to what he said.
But what I'm telling you is. What I'm telling you is, if you do not listen and try to understand what the man's point of view, you're going to constantly be going back and forth. Sometimes you have to give and take. Sometimes he have to take and give. But then don't be trying to say, oh, I give more than you do, or I give more than her. You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't look for, because the circumstances, the situations may be different, and they may not be as serious as something else.
But what Ed is saying, Pam, and hear this, Ed is saying with that idea that a person can lose themselves. That's why he's saying you can swallow. You have to swallow some things. And you're saying, when you say swallow some things, now we're talking about honesty. When you're talking about swallowing some things, you're talking about whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. You just have to just take it and just go along with it. But that's not
something. There's something.
And whether some of those things
are not worth fighting over. Mm-hmm. And you have to know the difference. First, you have to understand who you're talking to. I need to know something about your life and who you are as a person. That has nothing to do with your personality, intimate relationship with me. It has to do with who you were before you met me. Mm-hmm. So I have to know where your pain comes from. If I don't know your pain, I cannot really love you, because I don't know you. So once you tell me that, once I get close enough to you to get you to relax long enough to tell me where this pain came from, then I can deal with it. Then I can swallow some things, because I know what we're born of. You're a black woman, I'm a black man. There's some things I've been through you know nothing about. And I can't explain it to you because it doesn't affect you. You're a woman. But it affects me.
But why wouldn't you explain it to make the woman understand.
You can't make somebody understand. You cannot do that. You can.
Well, maybe I shouldn't use the term make, but you can, if you express or you say what you're feeling, if it's said with feeling, why wouldn't a person understand?
Well, you say anything you want with feeling, but if the person is not on the receiving end of that vibration, they cannot receive it because they can hear it, they can have some idea of it, but they cannot understand fully what you're going through. Like me, I've been through some serious racism. It wasn't violent, it's covert.
Mm-hmm.
It was intimidating. It was, like my father said, don't you ever let another man disrespect you. He said, what do you? He said, well, if he tries to hurt you, hurt him. If he tries to damage you, cripple him. If he tries to kill you, kill him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was taught.
And when you shared those things with me, I felt the sensitivity to that.
These are areas and places that women never walk.
That's true.
There's some things that happened to me in the Army, and when a lot of men who knew what they were doing came in confrontation with people who would threaten their very existence
Mm-hmm.
on the sly. And you would have to understand, know this, and how to combat it, and do the same thing and let them know you're messing with the wrong person. I'm a man just like you, and I will retaliate. And I have no hesitation about that, and I don't care nothing about your law. Like my daddy told the police, that badge does not protect your behind.
Mm.
He would tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
Mistreat me if you want. I will find you in your house. But that's the kind of attitude you have to have. Even those times, if you're not a violent person, you have to have that attitude. Otherwise, you're not going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been through all that, you're talking to a female in a possible relationship, and she's talking all kinds of stuff that you don't understand and you don't want to deal with. But you got to deal with it because she's been through some stuff too.
Right. And there's a certain energy. Sometimes people don't understand the power of energy. And sometimes the energy may be the same. The words may not be the same, but you may have, they got this new word talking trigger. Certain things may trigger you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know the person.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about tell me about your homework.
Yeah.
Tell me where you came from. Tell me what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you what you've been
through.
Yeah. And some people have been physically and verbally abused.
Yeah.
And they never get over it.
Right.
But they think they have.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see and you know differently. So there's a lot of things I have to accept when I accept you.
Yeah.
That those things are going to come out eventually, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm. And that's the same with men. That's the same thing with you, what you just described. There's some things you haven't gotten over.
That's what we as people have to give each other some slack.
Right.
Some grace.
I agree with that. Some grace.
Yeah. All my black brothers and sisters lead way. You can say crazy things if you want. I know where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't hold you responsible for all your acts and all the things you say because I know what's born of.
Right.
My oldest brother James is like that too. He brushes things off that people say. I mean, he was in the service too, back in the 60s and the early 70s. And, that's something that a lot of us don't understand, that era. We hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it actually makes you who you are. And especially if you had a different kind of upbringing. See, with your father being the kind of man that he was strong, and he was definite on what he was telling you. And then there you go to the service where non-blacks are telling you something that's opposite of what your father said. You then retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so much that you could do. And then after you get out and you get into relationships, those feelings sometimes come back. So that's why for me, it's so important to have conversations, to talk, to explain when you're not angry.
Yeah, but you have to be involved in that kind of conversation with a different attitude.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can't go in it with preconceived notions.
Mm-hmm.
You have to listen to what you're listening to and try and hear what you're listening to because they will tell you where the pain comes from.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to go there, the person's not going to talk to you. That's why a lot of people who've been through a lot of trauma don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because waste to tell the truth about it, explain it to another person is a waste of your time.
So how do you get them to understand where you're coming from and try to be there for you, to be a comfort, to be understanding? How do you do that? Okay.
Either the person does or they don't.
Mm.
You can't explain to them enough to get them to understand exactly a semblance of what it is that you're going through, because they're not going to do it.
Mm.
All they got to do is accept who you are.
Okay.
And give you space to express that.
To be there. Mm-hmm.
So the only thing you can do in a good relationship is create a world where that person feels safe enough to be themselves. And except when you do be themselves, you accept who that is, because you might not like it.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about from your point of view, from a man's point of view that's been through.
It doesn't matter what level it is. These are certain things you're going to like or dislike, but you need to know that before you enter into a relationship. That's why most relationships fail, 60%, because they go into it with the wrong attitude, looking for the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about that. We understand that.
They fill a hole with the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out, and they get upset. Then they get upset with themselves because they made the wrong choice.
Yes.
Then they try to blame the other person. You ain't this, you ain't that, you changed, you just,
right.
They're the same person they were.
Right.
When you met them, you just didn't see it. Because you weren't looking.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to tell yourself, I need to be a better look. I need to investigate and quiz people. If they're going to come into my life, I need to know who they are. That's what happens when you vote for people. They turn out to be, politicians. They try to be trained because you didn't vet them.
Right.
You just talk because they talk pretty, made a lot of promises. You thought they knew what they were doing. No. Take them, put them through the test. One man told me that. Mm-hmm. He said, you want to find out what that sister's about?
Mm-hmm.
Test her. Most people don't test each other. Mm-hmm. He said, I said, what you do? He said, ask them to do something they normally wouldn't do. Ask them to do something for you. Mm-hmm. That's not for them.
And what would that,
it doesn't matter. Anything.
Nothing matters?
I mean, it doesn't matter what you ask them to do.
Oh.
But their reaction will tell you everything you need to know.
Well, if you love a person, I mean, when you genuinely love a person, you love them for who they are, and you recognize that.
Back to you have to love yourself first.
Yes.
You gotta know who you are.
Right.
I can't tell you what I want until I tell you who unless I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't love me unless you know who I am.
Yes.
So if you say you love me and you don't know me, you lie.
Yeah, but the good thing is one thing about it, when sometimes you have to, it's all about communication. And sometimes you have to really and truly acknowledge, sit down, be honest, and just say what it is you feel.
Our conversation said you have to be honest. That's the basic thing we have to practice doing. That's a very difficult thing to do if you don't really try.
Mm-hmm.
But
try telling people what you really think.
But you hit on something though when you said yourself, because it's very important to know yourself. It's very important to self-analyze you, and you don't have to tell people that you're self-analyzing yourself or anything, because you have to be honest with yourself more than anything. The scripture says, love thy neighbor as thyself, and I think they say love your neighbor as yourself. They put more emphasis on loving your neighbor more so than yourself, because they got it wrong. You need to concentrate on loving yourself, loving who you are. What is it that I want, I need, I desire out of a partner?
We're not raised that way.
Right.
So we don't do that. We're looking for other people to make us happy.
Mm-hmm. Which is not the right thing to do.
To feed our ego or whatever. But you don't know
what do they say? To complete me.
Right. Anybody
Nobody
complete you.
Maybe they really meant that in a song and then people just took it literally. Because we can write stuff in a
Oh, yeah,
minute, and
we can write some stuff.
but I really think it's important to know you. You have to ask yourself questions that sometimes are shocking. The answer,
But these are lifelong questions.
Yes.
You should ask yourself these questions through your whole life.
That's right, Ed.
Over the past 10 years, who was I?
That's
The
right.
next 10 years, who shall I be?
Mm-hmm.
And what did I do wrong? And what do I need to change
Mm-hmm.
to get a better outcome?
Yeah. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because fear and doubt is what stops us from being who we truly are or who we truly want to be. You go into a relationship and you don't want to tell the guy or the girl what it is that you really want, because you think, oh, it might be too much, or oh, he can't do that, or oh, she may not want to be that.
Or you might not know.
And that's the tragedy.
You might not know
what you want.
What you
think you
personally,
do.
what a person would personally
Yeah.
want themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And you think you do, because of, like you said earlier, because of how you were raised. You think I'm telling you, I said earlier that I was married 8 months, but I know after I had got a divorce and all that, I realized that one of the things that hindered our marriage was I was so engrossed in the kind of childhood I had. My awesome dad, my brothers, oh, they'd do anything for me, and blah, blah, blah. I would throw that up in my husband's face. What man wants to hear that? That my father would do this, and okay, that's okay. You don't have to do it. I'll call my father, or I'll call my brother, and they would do anything. And so I grew up with that feeling, that attitude. I don't have to worry about nobody doing nothing for me because I have somebody who would do it. And that's not nice. That wasn't nice. That was not nice.
You were young too.
Yeah.
When you're young,
I've seen some young people that had their marriage have worked.
Yeah.
Their marriages last. But I'm just saying what I learned that, and I would think about when I was started doing self-analysis as to what happened with my marriage, because I always say there's two sides to a pancake, no matter how flat.
The worst thing you can do is to bring up another person's
That's just not nice.
My dad would have did that. My ex-wife would have
Yeah. Who wants to hear that?
Yeah.
But of course, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about what I wanted.
Well, you're small.
Yeah,
you're spoiled. It's all about me.
I am spoiled, but not rotten. But maybe I was then.
Yeah.
But I realized that wasn't a good thing, And then I was dating a guy, and he. Oh, I just love this fella. Oh, my goodness.
You're going to tell that story?
I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but you all see that my eyes are closed and I'm going back to 1976. But he broke up with me. And I was like, what?
I'm so perfect.
What? How could you? But anyway, and what he said was, I had fixed dinner, and spaghetti. I love spaghetti dinner, and his daughter was the same age as my son at that time. They were kids, and we were sitting around the table because I set the table. We sat at the table. His daughter, my son, he and I. And do you know? He said to me, he said, "What would you do if we broke up?" I was like, I says, what do you mean? We broke up. We was going together a couple of years. I was loving it. I was happy, but he wasn't, evidently. He was doing everything that I wanted, everything that I needed. I didn't have to ask for anything. And he said, what would you do? I said, oh, I wouldn't like that. I said, I don't want us to break up. What are you talking about, break up? I said, what are we breaking up for?
No, he wasn't.
He said that. He said that. And I said, well, no. I said, I don't want us to break up. He says, you would be fine without me. I says, no, I wouldn't. But he thought I would. Why?
Because you told him so many times. That's why.
So as the evening went on, we broke up. I was devastated. And then I realized that this guy was the only guy that I really did love. I had been in relationships before, but I was devastated. And we broke up, and that was it. He didn't come back to me. I called him one time, Ed, and I said, "This is we didn't have." I just called him once. Back, I called him one time. We didn't have cell phones or nothing back in the day. We had and I says, "Did you try to call me?" And guess what he said? No. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." That was it.
He was so into you.
It was so true.
Now, Ed, now as
true.
a man, how you would have thought that she should have really called more?
That's why I say
No.
he was checking her number.
But he said, I took him. He said no, and he didn't call me back. He didn't want to.
But if you loved him, Pam, why you didn't call him more? Because you was
because he had said he didn't want me anymore. Oh yes, I did. Evidently, I did not know. See, that was another thing. Maybe you love yourself. I do love myself.
I know.
Absolutely. And I make no qualms about that. But I'm like Eartha Kitt. I want somebody to love me with me. What's wrong with that? But I know now how to do. I trust me when I tell you that. Well, then, but you know what? He ended up where he needed to be, and I did too. I am also a believer that everything happens as it should.
He died,
and that's
right?
Why they have. Yes, he did. He passed away. You know. But I mean, I'm saying that I realize my part in relationships.
So what's the lesson for our audience?
For the lesson is just be cool.
Everybody really and truly needs to really take a note to work on themselves.
Yeah,
if you work
so
on yourselves
critical.
for real,
Yeah.
and pull yourself, and then you come together. That's what makes it work. Let's take a short pause for the cause. We are here at Here's the Life with Zemrah and Ed at IntellectualRadio.com. We're going to hear a little bit of Zemrah. We got on All Rise watching.
Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everything must change. 'Cause nothing or no one goes unchanged. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. But that's the way of these times. Yes, everyone and everything's got to change. For there are not many things right here in this life that we can be so very sure of, except raindrops from the clouds. The sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds they fly. Now winter turns to spring. A wounded heart must heal, but never much too soon. Yes, everyone and everything's got to change. The young become the old, and mysteries do, all mysteries they unfold. But that's the way of these times. Yes, everyone and everything.
Hello, Miss Flo. We got some great people on watching. We're thanking you. Okay, so one of the things that I think is really, really important is, like I said, we have to work individually really on
Oh
ourselves.
yes. And that's one of the reasons why I am excited about Mitchell Stewart coming on the show in July. And like I said, he wrote a book, and I'm just going to read his dedication, and you'll see why I'm excited about him coming on the show. The name of the book again is 3:33 in between the hours. And if some of you understand and know 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m., I wrote a poem about 3 a.m. That's a bewitching hour. That's the time that the creator comes to you. You sometimes wake up in the morning around that time. Yes. And you start creating. If you're a creative person like that, things come to you. Be sure you jot things down. Thoughts, feelings come to you at that time.
Yes.
3 o'clock in the morning, between 3 and 4 a.m. And so the name of the book again is 3:33 in between the hours. And I just want to read his dedication, and then I want to read the preface. Now he's not long-winded. I'm long-winded in my writing, but he's not. This is his dedication to the version of me that didn't know who. No, I'm sorry. To the version of me that didn't know he'd survive the silence. To every man who's ever questioned his worth when the money ran low or the love got silent. And to the women who love, raise, forgive, and carry more than we'll ever fully see, this book is for you too. Some books are made to inform, some to entertain. This one, this one was made to wake something up inside of you. That's his dedication. And then his preface, it says, this book wasn't written to impress you. It was written to interrupt you, to wake something up between the hours when everything gets quiet, when your smile fades, your strength breaks, and the mirror starts asking questions your mouth won't. 3:33 is more than a time. It's a threshold. It's the minute between who you were and who you're about to become. It's where God doesn't just speaks, he confronts. This book is for the man who's tired of pretending, for the woman who loves men who don't know how to ask for love, for the ones carrying weight they can't explain and wounds they've learned to style. These pages ain't self help, they're soul work. Isn't that deep?
Oh, that is
Isn't
beautiful.
that deep? He is so awesome. You all are going to love Mitch. He's a wonderful young man.
Now, how
Like
old is
so
he
many,
now?
he is 37. I believe he's 37. Gone through a lot in his life, and yes, wonderful. He's a wonderful human being, and I'm excited about it. And so I thought that's why I thought that we should start the show, this series of talking about men, A lot of times we talk about women all the time. They have so many shows about women. They have drama series about strong women, single mothers, and that's good because I ended up being a single mom too, even though I got married, did the whole thing, but I ended up raising my son with the help of my family, and I would not have been able to do it. But men go through a lot that we don't even recognize because we're so busy working on ourselves and trying to be the strong woman that we are. Because, there's a conversation too. They say that man was created first, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that female was created first, and that's why men are mad, everything. But anyway, so we're gonna do that. But I would like to, for men and women, to get your men to listen next week, next month, the second Tuesday in July, to listen in, call in,
Well,
ask
we'll promote
questions,
it and make sure that
because this is important. We as a community want to heal our relationships. We want to heal our families. We've gone through so much over the years. And I shouldn't say years, I should say centuries. We as Africans now in America has gone through so much. And there is a hierarchy. There is God. There is the man, the woman, and child. That's how it goes. And because the man has been out of order for whatever reason, we're all out of order. Yes, because of his disobedience. So we have to understand that as women and raise our children to understand that. Because there's nothing more powerful than a family that have a man that's in his proper place and loves his family, treats his wife and children with dignity and respect. And so that's what we're looking for.
And that's why I think it's important that each one of us always make sure that we work on ourselves.
Yes.
We both of us have to seek self-help.
Yes,
You have to. That's
and
the only
not be
way
afraid
that
of that.
you cannot. You have to acknowledge that. If you need any type of therapy, which that's another show that we're going to bring. If you
Yes.
feel like you need, a lot of times we feel that you or think that you got to be crazy because you seek counsel or look to someone else to talk to. But sometimes you need someone neutral to talk to sort out your feelings or whatever you're going through. And I think that's very, very important. So I think once we can come together and really work on ourselves, and then you come together as one, that makes a major, major difference.
Well, when you come together or make a commitment to a person, you're saying we can go through this together.
Yes.
But you don't have to have the fear of losing me.
Right.
You shouldn't make divorce and separation so easy.
Yeah. I agree with that. Definitely not.
Because it's not easy. It shouldn't be easy.
Right. I think when it gets tough, the tough gets going. Like, I'm not pretentious. We've gone through some things, but whenever we went through whatever, we got tougher. We got there and just clung. That's when you really and truly come together as one.
Well, that's when you need teamwork.
Right.
But you have to have the same goal.
That's right.
And once you make that a commitment in the beginning, like one comic said, I can say anything I want to my wife. I ain't have to worry about. We can get married and go to bed, but I know we ain't going nowhere.
Right.
I ain't worry about her running out on me.
Right.
Or vice versa.
We just laugh it off, and you get mad, laugh it off.
You're not coming home one night, something like that. We don't do that.
Right.
There's too much respect for one another.
Exactly.
And for the institution.
Right.
That we build. And once you come together, you become a family.
Mm-hmm.
Children come after them, they become additions to the family.
Right.
But the family stays together.
You got to.
Without children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and that's what the children should be raised to respect the family.
Right.
So we having some more kids.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't having no more family.
Yes. And that's what people need to see. And it's nothing like, that's when you really love when you sacrifice, when you might be going through things, and we all do. You know, you have to sacrifice, recognize, and as I always say, and you have to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Everything, a lot of things do change.
Well, the constant things in the universe don't do anything but change.
Yeah.
Right. And you want change. That's the best thing you could
Well, a
ever
lot of people,
ask
Well, a
for
lot
is
of people
change.
don't. A lot of
Right. They
people
can't
don't. They're
associate with it.
afraid of change.
Right.
They're fearful that if this change, this is going to change.
Mhm.
And again, that's because you're not understanding. That's the other part of it. You have to understand your mate. I don't think you would always agree, but you should at least understand and more importantly respect. If you have that respect, then you are more apt to endure anything.
Yeah. And you agree to disagree.
because back in the day we thought of it as survival.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't care what he did. We just surviving the family.
Mm-hmm.
We need to survive. The community has to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So whatever we have to do that, that's what we're going to do that
Right.
and maintain our family because we need to survive.
Right.
Now, what do you think? A lot of building in a relationship, because you have young people, and I'm getting ready to say something, but I'm thinking that, well, I don't know. I was going to say young people are a little different than they were back in the day, but love is love. Male female relationship is what it is. But a lot of the situations in relationships are different today because I say, what woman don't want a good man? What man don't want a good woman? You know, but do you know what's good for you? What are you looking for
You don't know.
when you, yeah, but see, you know, that thing right there, you don't know. You need to know.
So
You need to know what it is that you want or you're looking for or you desire in a mate.
but they haven't had that training.
But okay, but okay,
When you say
well,
we haven't had that
They
training,
haven't been trained on what to look for.
but I mean,
Based
you
on who they are and what they're looking for.
okay.
Nobody told them what to look for. So they go by what TV and what
Oh, you talking about now?
what the media is doing.
Yeah,
They tell me what's attractive, what's not attractive.
yeah.
Then I look at that kind of person.
Hmm.
And when that physical form or that tangible thing uh, becomes available and you find there's more to it, then you become disenchanted. He said, I thought I wanted this, and it's not fulfilling me at all.
Well,
You can talk to this person but that's not what you look for in the first place. You were looking for something else, and that's what you got.
mm,
So if you look for the physical, the outward appearance of a person, because the media and the TV and
mhm.
the outlets have told you what to look for, told you and instructed you on what's beautiful, what's right, what's wrong, who Jesus is, what he looks like.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna go with.
Everything you have, you were taught. You weren't a Christian when you came here.
Right, right.
You were not. So that's the only religion in the world. No, it's not. Just that what you were when you came here. You were something else. Look for that. Look for what you used to be. And then ask yourself, who am I and what am I worshiping? And what did that image represent? And who put it out there? When you get a certain age, you have to question everything.
Yes.
now that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question.
Now that's what have to be taught too, you know. But again, a lot of the reason why young people aren't taught is because the home structure is much different than it was even years ago.
Yeah, because you got babies raising babies for one
Right,
thing.
right.
I tell my grandkids, your education starts when you get out of school. Life is an education, but you should be continuously learning every day of your life.
Yep.
And ask questions and challenge everything. What would you think if everything you were taught was wrong?
Oh,
What would you do if half the stuff that you were told was a lie? Everything you believed in was wrong.
was not true. That's what I say.
Everything was taught to you. Your sense of right and wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Your sense of what it looks good, what it does not look good, what tastes good is wrong. What you think about what is peace? What does it look like? How come you don't have it? And who's in control of your peace?
Yeah.
How do you get it back? What options do you have? If you don't have any, make some. Today we have options. We have not investigated them. We don't believe in it. So I asked a lady the other day, one of my clients, I said, what would you do if I could take you to a place where everything you wanted was there? Everything was free. You could live free and free of racism, free of violence in your own country. And you didn't have to pay anything. Would you go? She said, I don't know nothing about that place. I know my place. She was trained, as is the majority of
And didn't
people.
answer the question.
Didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Mine
Yeah.
would not accept the fact that there might be an alternative.
Yeah.
Could not do it.
Right.
So that's where we are today. What you're looking for.
Well, there's a fear, I think, of the unknown,
Yeah, but
especially in that
if you're a
case.
pioneer, you welcome that.
But if you describe the way
it-
you was describing that was almost like if she died, because that's what they. I know you were talking about Africa, correct?
No, I'm talking about home.
You're talking about Africa,
Any place
right?
that you feel that home is for you, that you're in charge of. You're not in charge of this place. You're not in charge. You can't make a place a room in somebody else's house. You can't do it. You cannot change this government and what they think of you. And everybody looks like you all around the world. All around the world.
Mhm.
And the way they treat them is the way they treat you. How do you change that? You think you're trying to change them to fit your narrative, or do you need to change your position in the world?
Did you explain to her that? Because you know when a lot of
No,
things.
I didn't want to explain all that because
Yeah,
She
because you
said-
know when
she
people
said
get,
no. She was,
yeah,
so
because
you
when
don't have to
people
go
get
any
old,
further.
and then you know when people get older though, there is and they're settled in. When people get older, they're not trying to uproot.
that's okay, but that's not for everybody.
Right,
It's just for a few remnant who will say, "I'm out of here.
right.
I'm going to start my own thing because I cannot do nothing with this."
But you know the Hebrews did that too.
Exactly.
They didn't do the right thing. We know
Right.
that.
Well,
They didn't do it the right
they
way.
uprooted a lot of them uprooted, and
Yeah, but
yeah,
they
and
didn't do it the right way, so
Yeah.
you really can't use them.
That's nothing
Yeah.
piece of failure but a try.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
And we'll try it again.
we could talk
We
about
did
that.
not
That's
know.
another thing.
That
too.
really is another subject. Yeah, it really is.
You get the stack. You do
Hey,
it.
Sandy. Hey, Tony.
Start with yourself.
Yes. And we're gonna constantly go back to that, starting with you, because a lot of times you find yourself in a situation because of what you did or did not do, and we tend to blame someone else. Well, they made me do that, or I was doing that because of this. I didn't know. You have to be clear with yourself, and then that's when that change comes, when you find that the things that you want, you need, you desire is not coming to you. You're not living your best self. You're not living who you want to be. You're not living, you're saying, well, why things are not happening for me? Why is it? Because you're not doing what you should be doing. You're not happy because you're not being purposeful.
Yeah.
See, and so, and then we look to please other people. We look for validation from other people.
Mhm.
And you think people, I say it often, you think people love you the way that you love them. No, they don't. A lot of times it's not, has nothing to do with you. It's because they're trying to do them. They're trying to find out who they are. And you just don't fit right now. They're trying to find themselves. But you said, oh, they didn't do this, or they didn't help me, they didn't love me, they didn't care for me. No, you stop that and go to this. Go inside and find out who you are. If you find out that the things that you want, the things that you desire, things that you wish for is not working for you, you have to start working on yourself. And I'm only saying that because
That's
that's
something
where
that
I
we all
am.
have to
But
do.
that's where I am.
Yeah,
And it's never too late. You're
absolutely not.
never too old, to start figuring out what it is that you want for yourself.
You change your vibration. What you want wants you.
There you
Yes.
go.
Attractive.
There you
don't
go.
hunt
There
for
you
it.
go.
You ain't gotta go find it. You gotta
Yeah.
track it down. It will come looking for
It
you.
will. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. You'll find out.
It's always where the time goes so fast.
It's a beautiful
When we
thing.
have so much good conversation. But we're at the end of our show already.
Oh wow. Wow.
I'm telling you, the
It was
time
just
goes by.
6:30 a minute ago.
Right.
Oh, it's 6:56. Oh,
Yeah, time goes by fast when you have great conversation. We've had some great guests tuning in this evening. And Miss Tony, I cannot believe you. I hope all is well, sweetie. And Sandra, so good that you're tuning in with us. My Aura.
my
We're going to
Facebook.
talk about
My
Aura too. Aura has a wonderful, wonderful pain salve that I'm moving for her. It's moving a little slow for me, but we people, the ones that have it, really, really like it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. It's all natural, and my Aura has put it together. So again, we. Always am so happy to have Miss Pamela Wilks with us.
Thank you. I love
Always
it. I
has
love
so
it.
much
Thank
good
you.
stuff to say.
Thank you.
Talk from the heart, and
Yes.
of course, my better half, the man doing the man thing, always has some great advice, and we really appreciate that. It's always good to have that yin and yang. It just works. So again, we are here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. We just love our producers for holding that spot 6 p.m. on Tuesdays for us. We appreciate that so much because they didn't have to do that. We've been away for a good season, and we just love and appreciate them for doing that for us. And matter of fact, I think we are one of the oldest shows. We are. So shout out to our lovely Wanda B. We missed you this evening. And we love you all. Thanks for those that tuned in to our radio show this evening. We want you to tune in next week. Don't forget Pam's segment for July, the second Tuesday. And we'll see you next week. Here's the life with Zemrah. Intellectual Radio.
Love you guys.
I learned to open the